Hey guys, Taylor plays in. It feels like the Elder Scrolls 6 is just around the corner. I mean, I noticed there are like 4 years to go, maybe even more if Starfield and some of its other IPs do well, but it's still nice to know that it's coming up considering that we've been waiting for over 10 years. Even for me, who hasn't been waiting that long, I just got into Skyrim not too many years ago, but even to me, it still feels like a long time. I mean, you can only play through Skyrim and Oblivion so many times before it starts to get repetitive. I did get ESO recently, but that's besides the point. Anyway, guys, Elder Scrolls 6 coming up. I thought it'd be a nice idea to do a video in no particular order listing off things I wanted to see in the next Elder Scrolls game. So let's get into it. Starting from draft number 10, we have more Daedric artifacts. Now, every single Elder Scrolls game has given us a plethora of Daedric artifacts to collect. Usually, there is one for every Daedric prince. However, their Daedric counterparts have gotten the shaft, especially in recent games, where in Oblivion there were no Daedric artifacts, and in Skyrim there's only 2 in the Dawnguard DLC, those being the bow and shield of Ariel. Ariel being the elven interpretation of Akatosh, or I guess it'd be more accurate to say Akatosh is the human interpretation of Ariel. Anyway, there's only 2 in that game, but you can get more through the Creation Club, but nobody likes the Creation Club. So I think that the next Elder Scrolls game should include more Daedric artifacts in the base game. Maybe we could complete Daedric quests, like Daedric quests, to obtain the artifacts. Now, it'd be kind of weird to do this a bit because of the fact that the Daedra, unlike the Daedra, don't really interact with mortals directly. Because they're in a state of semi-unconscious, semi-dead, but they do interact sometimes through avatars. And besides, even if there wasn't, we could still obtain them from like orders that follow certain Daedra, like the Vigilance of Stendarr for Stendarr. Now, I could see there being an Daedra artifact for each of the Daedra. Ariel / Akatosh, Kyne / Kinnereth, and Stendarr already have artifacts. I mean, Diabella also has one, but it's not really one the player could really use, that being True Paintbrush, because it wouldn't really have a use to the player. But anyway, I feel like the other Daedra should also have their own artifacts. There's a ton of possibilities for this, like robes for Julianos, which could boost your spell's effectiveness and magical regen. A staff for Arcade, which could fire projectiles that hurt the undead and heal the living. I can't talk, but there could also be a hammer for Zenithar, which works similar to the notched pickaxe, but also helps your other crafting skills like alchemy and enchanting. There could be an amulet for Mara, which could heal you, have a chance to heal you if you're at low health. And there could be something for Diabella that could like pacify people of the opposite gender or do something like that, as well as boost your personality. If stats return, it will boost your personality. If they don't, then it will just boost your all those skills related to that type of stuff. And Talos, we could have, I'm assuming, armor similar to the armor of Tyrus Septim in Oblivion, except it would actually have a special effect, like say something like giving you the ability to use the Thume, but it'd only be like 1 or 2, only 1 shout. That'd probably be Unrelenting Force or Fire Breath. It would also be kind of cool to see one for Lorcan, even though he's the only guard that's truly dead, even though he really isn't, because we see avatars of Shor sometimes, like Tyrus Septim or Ysmir, I'm pretty sure was a avatar of Shor. So it'd be kind of cool to see it. Like, we could have an axe that has some sort of ice damage, but also does more damage to elves. Like, I forget how to pronounce it, but it's Ysgrimor's axe in Skyrim. And there's a ton of possibilities we could do with this. We could even give Akatosh his own thing, like a sword, because he is somewhat separate from Ariel. I mean, it would actually be pretty cool to see a lot of artifacts for the Daedra, since I find them just as interesting as the Daedra. And we don't really get to see a lot of them in the games, usually. We only really get to see the Daedra. So it would be pretty cool to actually see more Daedric artifacts in the game. Moving on to number 9, we have more unique abilities for Daedric artifacts. Now, for artifacts bestowed on the player by literal guards, a lot of the Daedric artifacts are pretty lame and lackluster. Some of them can even be surpassed by weapons you create yourself, provided you have high enough smithing and enchanting skill. I think all of the Daedric artifacts should have a unique ability, and if some of them don't, then they should have a very powerful ability at least. Good examples of this in Skyrim are Dawnbreaker, Spellbreaker, Ebony Blade, Ebony Mail, and the Ring of Harsine. However, some that do have unique effects are still not good because they're in desperate need of a buff. For instance, Mayrune's Razor has a unique ability to one-hit kill opponents, which is actually a really good ability. However, it only works 2% of the time, which makes it a completely impractical weapon. If you upped it to, say, 5%, it would actually be pretty good dagger. Anyway, guys, the Danger Guard effects I think that should be changed are the Mace of Molag Bal, the Masked Vial, Sanguine's Rose, Savior's Hide, the Skull of Corruption, and Bone Drug. Some of them even had better effects previously, but they should return them to their older effects, and some of them that didn't have good effects before should just be changed to completely unique effects that are completely new. Moving on to number 8, we have more polish. Now, a Bethesda game wouldn't be a Bethesda game without the occasional glitch or bug. I mean, we all would remember Skyrim as much if it wasn't for the flying horses and the Giant's Rocket program. So, anyway, I think that we still need to have better polish in the next one. And the main thing I'm concerned about is gameplay hindering glitches and bugs. Like, for instance, the Thunderbolt staff in Skyrim having the wrong effect. Or the Nightingale blade not being upgradable if you have the best version of it. Another example that bugs me in Fallout 4, which is not an Elder Scrolls game obviously, but it still has the game, is that if you complete a certain quest before a certain time, if you complete certain quests in a certain order, you cannot buy the laser Gatling gun from the Brotherhood of Steel until like very, very late in the game. It's just another thing that bugged me. I just want to say it's another thing that bugged me. Another thing in Elder Scrolls that needs to be polished is from that all of like furniture and stuff sometimes being messed up in player homes and stuff. You can bypass this a lot by doing stuff like, for instance, making it so that item frames look like weapon display rack where you just place the item in instead. That would actually go a long way to helping it. And also, it'd be nice if they could help with the item locating so items don't just on the floor. I'm sick of going into one of my houses in Skyrim and finding my all over the place. It's happened to me quite a few times. Finding swords left in weapon cases on the ground. It'd just be nice if they could fix that polish as well. Moving on to number 7, we have more weapon options and types. Now, let me make one thing clear. I do not, under any circumstances, want a weapon customization system in Elder Scrolls 6. It worked in Fallout, but Fallout is in Elder Scrolls. One is post-apocalyptic sci-fi, the other is fantasy. It works in one doesn't necessarily work in the other. So anyway, while I'm opposed to weapon customization, I am for giving us more options with weapons. We could add pull-ons back in, which would be nice. We could also add in short swords and long swords again to give us more diversity within weapon classes. We could also diversify classes further by adding stuff like katanas and scimitars. So, say you're crafting a steel sword, you could craft a steel European-style sword, which is to go sword properly. You could craft a steel scimitar, or you could craft a steel katana. It would also be pretty cool to add other types of custom, like different variants when we're crafting. It wouldn't necessarily be customization, it would just be different variants, kind of like how the steel armor in Skyrim had 2 different variants, and some of the other ones also had variants. It'd be kind of similar to the crafting system in Elder Scrolls Online, but it'd be a bit different and toned down. It'd be changed to work in a single-player environment. Moving on to number 6, we have more and better alternative quest options. Now, I really like the way the Dawnguard DLC questline works, where you have 2 sides, you can join either one. You can choose to be part of the Dawnguard or choose to be a vampire. Now, I really like the experience, and it really gives the Dawnguard DLC a lot of replayability since you can play from both sides and see the story from different angles, depending on what faction you choose. It would be really cool to see that in the rest of Elder Scrolls 6. For instance, imagine if instead of when you killed Astrid, instead of having a Destroyed Dark Brotherhood quest, you had an entire Pentelis Oculatus quest line. Or imagine if when you found the Thieves Guild in Riften, you had the ability to destroy it like you did the Dark Brotherhood. Or imagine if, when you found out that the companions were werewolves, you could choose to betray them to the Silver Hand. Or even, like, say, in Oblivion, you could join the Necromancers, if you would. It'd give us a lot more options to play as, and it would really help replayability and roleplay. Moving on to number 5, we have a better war system. Now, I love the Civil War quest line in Skyrim. Some of the best quests in the Skyrim are the sieging of the cities in the Civil War quest line. And it's really cool, and I'm hoping they expand upon it in Elder Scrolls 6. It seems like that's probably going to happen since the villain is seeming like it'll most likely be the Falcon. Now, it would be really cool if in Elder Scrolls 6 we had the Siege and the Fen quests from Skyrim on an even bigger level, since we could do even more with next-gen console. But there could also be other stuff, like more minute stuff, that could also be changed. For instance, I think they should add in the disguise feature from Fallout New Vegas. Not necessarily the one from Elder Scrolls Online, more one similar to New Vegas. Also, I feel like just to make it feel like the war is going on even without you, they could add like more smaller stuff. Like, say a random event happens where you enemies are sent to assassinate you after you become a more like major figure in the war effort. Or imagine if like you had Radiant quests like assassinate enemy officers or take down enemy camps. It would also be pretty cool that the more you advanced, it felt like you actually had more authority by being able to choose battle decisions, kind of like in Fallout 4 in a way. Anyway, it'd be really cool to see a lot of different cool features. There's some other games that they could draw features from, kind of. Shadow War is one that comes to mind, but there's other games that could also draw features from. It'd be really cool, like, to actually have a say in how the war turns out. Coming in at number 4, we have a better character creation system. Now, the character creation system in Skyrim was a pretty massive downgrade to Oblivion's. I think that they should keep what worked in Skyrim's, but mostly go back to Oblivion's character creation system. So attributes and classes have to definitely return, and racial traits should definitely be buffed. That way they're actually more important. In Oblivion, they actually mattered, whereas in Skyrim, they don't really feel like they're important that much. But there are some stuff from Skyrim's character creation system that I think they should keep. For starters, perks were a great addition and really helped us customize our characters and make them feel like our own. I also think that they should add a feature where you can still gain experience from minor skills if they add classes again. In Skyrim, you could gain experience from any skill because there were no classes and you had no major or minor skills. I think they should continue this, but if they do add classes, which I'm hoping they do, they should perhaps make a feature where you can obtain EXP from your minor skills, but you obtain less than from your major skills. Perhaps instead of making it required that you need 10 XP to level up, you need 20, and instead of getting 1 from major skills, you get 2 from major skills, and you get 1 from minor skills. I feel like this would actually help, but there's a ton of other features they could add. Like, for instance, they could add traits, which were a feature in Fallout New Vegas, which gave you special perks and features, but they had negative and positive effects. Moving on to number 3, we have a more advanced armor/apparel system. Now, Fallout 4 introduced a pretty unique armor system where you had 2 layers. One was for, say, clothing or military suit, and the other one was for armor. TED 6 should probably implement something like this. So we could have one for robes and clothes, and a second layer for armor. This would be super beneficial to battle mages, and I know I always play battle mage my first playthrough, and it would be super beneficial. And even some regular mage builds would actually probably benefit from this. We could also implement other features like chainmail for warrior builds, and this would be super useful to a lot of ones. We would have to tone back the effects of enchanting to make this balanced, but it would still be a pretty useful feature for a lot of players. Another thing they should probably add is cloaks. It'd be really cool to actually have cloaks in the game because a lot of people want them. There's a ton of mods for them, but we still don't have them. I feel like they should be aesthetic and like not enchantable or anything, and purely just aesthetic. It would also be pretty cool to maybe also give us different versions of armors, kind of like in ESO, where we can have different styles. And it would also be kind of cool to give us more other options when crafting our armor. Not necessarily customization, but just giving us different options would be nice. Moving on to number 2, we have a better combat system. Skyrim's combat was basically just block and swing your sword. Now, I feel like they could add a lot of other combat mechanics to make this combat system a lot better. Stuff like parrying and dodging would be very useful, and also adding dual wield blocking like in ESO would also be very useful. Other examples of combat systems to draw from other games are The Witcher, Twilight Princess, Dark Souls, and Shadow of War. I also think that we should give weapon classes more unique properties. Like for instance, maybe daggers are bad at blocking but good at parrying, and hammers maybe they're easier to dodge. This would be a big upgrade, and there's already a ton of combat overhauls for Skyrim in Nexus and stuff. So there's a ton of stuff to take inspiration from. Finishing off the video at number 1, we have a better magic system. Now, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. I do not, under any circumstances, want mysticism and thaumaturgy to return as schools of magic. There would be way too many skills for a mage to invest in. Now, while I'm against adding these skills back in, I am not against adding some of their spells back in under other schools. Like, most of mysticism's spells could work under alteration or restoration, and most of thaumaturgy spells could work under illusion or alteration. Also, I feel like the spells in Skyrim were pretty weak and lackluster, so we should probably get better spells, and also give us more options. There were a ton of spells in Oblivion, but there was very few spells in Skyrim. We should add more spells back in. They should add more spells back in. They should also give us better spells. Also, I think it's about time that we should add a buff spell effect enchantment. But the main thing I want is more spells and more powerful spells. There could be so much stuff we could do. Imagine poison, shockwaves, or arcane energy blasts for destruction. More Daedra for conjuration. And stuff like water walking from a previous game, and other stuff from previous games for alteration. There was so much more you could do. And it would make mage builds so much more practical. They were so not practical in Skyrim, but they're so much better in Oblivion. Here guys, this is my thoughts on stuff I want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6. Tell me what you think down below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and remember to check out my other videos.